So we have Per Joar Hansen, Perry, with us from Norway. He is the assistant coach of landslaget at the Norwegian national team, former coach of Rosenborg and other clubs in Norway, and U21 national team in Norway. I met Perry in 2015 or 14 when you came to Breiðablik. You were on a big European tour for the Norwegian top football, and you were trying to see what Norway could learn from other places, other clubs and countries. So we wanted to talk to you today about, this trip, and perhaps by starting, with an introduction of yourself. And welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So what is your background? How did you end up where you are?
It's a long story, but I make it short. I grew up in the north of Norway and starting playing in a local club, and then I left home 16 years of age and moved to a second division club, playing in all over the north Norway in the league in second division, before I moved to middle of Norway, first in Obos-liga, it's called in Norway, first division with Steinkjer 3 seasons, and then I went to Rosenborg as a player, played there 3 seasons, went to Sweden University, played for Umeå FC in Sweden, and came back and moved to Stjørdal, 30 kilometers outside Trondheim, and have lived there, have a base there, and have been coaching local teams first, and then I'm coaching GIF Sundsvall in Sweden twice, Rosenborg twice, also been in Strindheim, a playing coach in Tippeligaen, Eliteserien, Ranheim, under 21 Norway, and now I'm assistant coach for the Norwegian national team.
Good, and working with Lars Lagerbäck, who is obviously highly thought of in Iceland.
Yeah, Lars is a very popular man in Iceland, and he should be. Is it true that he get some votes for the president election some years ago?
Yeah, he would have won in a landslide, yeah.
That's good.
So, we wanted to talk about the trip, so let me see if I can share the screen with you. So you put together a presentation for us.
Yeah.
And you can see it here.
Yes, that's the presentation, yes.
So I have to make this.
So how did it come that you did travel around?
Excuse me, Håkon?
Why did you go and traveling? You were traveling around Europe and looking at other clubs. And yeah. Why is that you did go on such a trip?
After Rosenborg, slide number 3, I think, you see all the clubs. I was hired by the Norwegian league, Norwegian Top Football Center, aims to work with the Norwegian top football to benchmark Norwegian football against the rest of the Europe, how to see how Norwegian football could be better. So I was traveling a lot in 2015 and 16, visiting these clubs. I wanted to benchmark Norway against the rest of Scandinavia, so I went to Finland, HJK, the biggest club in Finland, and Sweden, Malmö, IF Göteborg, Häcken, and AIK, and also Brommapojkarna, who is very good at youth developing. And then Denmark, Brøndby, and FC København. And then also in Holland, Ajax and Heerenveen. Nottingham Forest, because of my friend Stuart Pearce was manager there in a short period. So and Stuart has a lot of experience of English football and youth developing. 7 years as under 21 coach there. And also Iceland. I visiting Daði in Breiðablik and Runar Pall in Stjarnan, and also a short meeting with KSI. And then a lot of time in Spain, 1 week in Valencia when I took their methodology for 1 week and followed the training very closely. And also have meeting point with Atletico Bilbao, Atletico Madrid, and Levante in La Manga for a 1 week seminar. And there were also many Norwegian coaches at La Manga that week. So that is the short story.
That's quite good.
So what did you find out? So how did it go? What were you finding in each place?
I think when we in Scandinavia or in Norway, and also talking about myself, after we are finished with a long season, we always go out and try to have some club visiting to learn more. And when we come back, we always say that, yeah, it was interesting, but they are doing the same things like us. But I learned that that's not the end of the story. I think it's 4 things they're doing better, or did better than us. It was this with the competence, that all coaches had coaches, good coaches. So what is what? They know what is what. I think I learned also that they had good references. What's good, what's very good, what's bad in the training process, and how to develop players. They have a fantastic structure, how they was organized in terms of main principles, sub-principles in the playing models. And they have also a very good culture in the club, and how they want it to be in the dressing room and on the pitch. So in the short story also there is these 4 main points, in my opinion.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit on the reference side? Because I think that's interesting. You know, it's not enough to, I mean, if you go to Japan, America, Europe, you see coaches do the same drills, but
yeah,
it's not about just doing the drill. It's about, you know, context and knowing what is a good execution of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's you say it yourself, because it's about many coaches say this was a very good training session, and this was a very good execution, and this was a fantastic sessions. But you have to compare it with what, and I see they are very what do you call it, they know how a good player are, a very good player, a bad player. They also know what is good, what is bad, and they are more directly than us to if you don't do things right, you have to do it again. I think that they are more to the point, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Was more to the point. I think we are making progress now. So, but for 5, 6, 7 years ago, I think they was ahead of us in these things. Yes.
And the culture part, obviously, you went to different places. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think culture. You start always to build the culture with how you dress. You see that down in Europe, they more or less in Norway, they 5, 6, 7 years ago, and also now, many parents driving their kids to training, and they dropped off the kids near the training ground, and the kids go training, and afterwards the parents, it's pick them up in the cars and drive home. But most of the clubs I was visiting, the players came in the club and they went to the dressing room, changed there. The coaches was telling the players what shall we do in this training. They went to the training, how they should act in the training, and then the team go out together to the pitch and train. And afterwards they went into the dressing room, they evaluate the training, and they get in the shower and took the bags and went home. So a little bit a different approach, so you can build, in my opinion, a better learning culture with that approach, and just drop into the ground, and then the trainer is coming and start training, and then the players go home, and they not 100% crystal clear why and what they have done this training session, if you understand me.
Yeah. So
this was just a video that you showed me, and I never see Sverrir Oskarsson coaching, but this video is in my opinion a good example how you work with children, and this playfulness, and how they work with the young players from 3 years age in Breiðablik was for me very impressive.
Yeah, I think Hákon took Sverrir in many years ago, and he did a really good video, as you've shown, for a visit to America to show how he's working with the youngest kids.
Yeah.
And the whole emphasis on, having kids have a very good introduction to football. That if they have an enjoyable introduction, then they will become motivating and self-managing.
Exactly. So for me, this video was a fantastic example for how you can work with young kids in meeting with football.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the best clubs have a clear learning school with a plan for what players should learn from the age of 18 to 19. It's the same as in the school. What shall you learn when you start learning English? What shall you learn from 8 to 10? What shall you learn from 10 to 12? What shall you learn from 12 to 14, and so on and so on. So it was impressive when you see a club like Atletico Madrid. They have 3,500 training hours that was related from the age of 8 to 19. So what should players be able to do when they in the different age groups? So that for me was very impressive, the structure and the culture. And also this under 8 coach had been in the club for 18 years, and for me that's fantastic. And have you working 18 years with 8 years kids, you be an expert on at that age group. Fantastic.
Yeah, and then it's important that he gets the recognition he deserves in that role, instead of always promoting him to a place where he's maybe not as comfortable.
Yeah. And they also take into account biological and chronological age in terms of neural, skeletal, and muscular development. So as we know now, it's a big difference between 2 15 years old players. It can be 20 centimeters. So in terms of that, they will also have a good structure.
Yeah.
And here is just one pager for Athletic Club. They describe the game model in one pager. So
I think many people here in Northern Europe sort of think that the Southern Europe method is more relaxed, more open, more free, but I found that they are very organized and methodological, in their approach, much more so than anywhere else.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Daði. That's the always, we have thought about this when we are visiting Spain, Portugal, and so on, that we are more structured and we have, but it's opposite. They have more structure and a crystal clear way of working in the terms of methodology than us. That's also my opinion. So here also one picture from Atletico Madrid, just showing the game strategy in playing against established defense, how they attack, counter-attack, offensive and defensive, with main principles and sub-principles. So that's also a good example of how structured they are.
Yeah.
And the same here is a planification for 1 month of training with the beginning stage from 7 to 10 years, and upfront development stage from 11 to 14 years. What shall the players learn this month? It's the same.
Yeah, and somebody told me that between the age of 7 to 14, you have about 45,000 players in Madrid, in the city of Madrid, with who play in a league every week.
Yeah, and this is also an example for 1 week periodization and how they want to do it. Very structured. And here also an example on distribution of load in a weekly cycle, so they know that the game is the most important things. And here also one pager, how they thinking about this, how they want to in the learning process, what is most important from plan to understanding. And also here is a big, as you go back a little bit, from maybe a plan for 1 month, 14 days, down to 1 week, to 1 session. They are going in the dressing room. The trainer is coaching the players before they go out. They're going out and have the training sessions, and then you film and video filming the session. You go back in the dressing room, and then they think they have been learning.
It's very structured, and which seems to go against many, beliefs in youth development. But then again, these kids are training with expert coaches for a long time, and they also, they're allowed to, be creative within a certain system. Isn't that how you see it as well?
Yeah, I'm totally agreed. And one more thing, when you see this one pager here, that when I was in Valencia, they had, I think, 60 coaches on full time, and they have also 5 coaches like Hákon or big experienced coaches, 5 coaches who have the responsibility for the methodology. So when the trainer for maybe under 12 should have a training session, he always prepared, and afterward he went out to visit one of the coaches in the methodology department to discuss the training. And then afterward he maybe took away things and put in things they have discussed. So it could be a different training from when he started.
So and they're also coaching the coaches as well.
Yeah. So the coaches coaches the coaches. Yeah. So they have 5 person when I was there in 2015 who was coaching the coaches.
It's interesting.
And of course, it's a tough environment in top clubs in Europe. Many clubs is bringing players in to this academy. They live there in room with 4 players. Maybe 2 of them is competing at for the same role. They are. If you put this video together, you see. I think you have to. There. Yeah. This is an example. We're going to this corridor, and 30-40 players was living in this academy in Valencia. They came from everywhere in Spain. Many of them were not at home visiting during the season. It was also both school and football. It's academy.
They are the most important people in our academy. Alfaro.
Eating there, breakfast, lunch, dinner, afternoon. They do the school homework. It was very scheduled the whole day for them. So you can like it or not like it, but that was the Valencia way. And they also starting with the role and formation from under 7 to under 12 when they play 8 against 8. They have a crystal clear modeling for how they should play and what the different players should do in this system.
Videos also.
On the pitch, they have this offside line. If you see the offside line there, so the strikers is not waiting for the ball in the penalty area in offside and score 100 goals a year, but they learn from 7, 8 years old to be aware of the offside line. So they also need they learn the tactical way of the game. Set pieces. Also, they play the goalkeeper. I was told had the responsibility that the team was organized on set pieces. So if you see here, they have two players in zone, one on the first post, and they are 8 years of age. So this is also normal. So in Norway, we not organize us on set pieces from 8 years of age. That's for sure. And here I was talking about the culture again. Here is Valencia under 12 coming out from the dressing room for training. The same dress code and looks like a team. And this for me is not cost money. It's just culture.
It's already very professional.
Yeah, very professional. And the parents was always waiting outside when the kids was training. They was not allowed to come in, so they had to stay out and have a cup of coffee while they was waiting for the kids training. They was welcome when the games was all on Saturdays. Of course, they could come see their sons, but in the training session, they had to wait outside. This is the goalkeeper school in Valencia. And I was told that they was screening the players, and those who are not going to be longer than 1.86 m was taken away from the goalkeeper school because they was not high enough to be a goalkeeper. So it's brutal.
Do you think this is also maybe the downside to the system, that it's too much professionalism, it's too much methodology, they maybe miss some, players who are outside the box?
of course, is that's the part of these things that these clubs not thinking about, because we have to think in another way because they have so many players there. So it, for me, it's too much the law of Darwin, you know. So they take in players and they throw them out when they not believe in them. But we have to take the players and try to give them so much we can for a longer period, and always think a long-term development. But they are too, for me, this is too tough and too Darwinism if you, for kids. That's my opinion.
I met a academy director from Portugal in Norway a few years back, and he said that, you know, they had stopped taking Nordic players because they found that they didn't thrive into the academy, because they found they couldn't thrive in an environment like this. So maybe it's a total culture shock.
Yeah, it's a culture shock. So and before, it was a culture shock for me when you see the next, before you starting the next video. They had a very good young player in Valencia when I was there, calling Fran Villalba. He has made his debut in the first team. He had played for the first team, and the coaches on the he was 17, and the coach, he played in the youth under 19. And he has starting being maybe a little bit big-headed, and the coaches have told him to be more focused and more professional, and yeah, everything. But he had not responded to the coaches on under 19. And we was looking at this training when Alessanco, the old Barcelona player, the central defender, he was the academy director in Valencia, and he heard this from the coaches, and he went there, look at the training, and in the middle of the training, he came out to the pitch, stopped the training, and talked to Fran Alba in front of every player at the youth team. That he said to him, if you not listen, you are out. So this is the situation. And this is not the way we are doing it in Norway. I don't know how you're doing in Breiðablik or Iceland if you have a problem with a 17-year-old player, but you can like it or not like it, but this is how it is in the big clubs.
Yeah.
So they control with a big fear also.
Yeah, yeah. This is also for me culture, and this is for me good culture. This is not costing money. You see this under 19 Valencia team, the trainer say, bring some goals to the training pitch, and you see every player in the team is carrying goals. I have seen many training sessions in Norway with youth players, and the coaches say, bring some goals, we are going to play 8 against 8, and you've never seen the whole team carrying goals. But this is also for me culture, and this for me good culture.
You know where I've seen this before? It was with Dortmund when Jürgen Klopp was there. It was something you would notice, that, you know, all the top players, Lewandowski and Aubameyang, they would all go. Yeah,
that's for me a good culture, and that's for me learning the players to take responsibility. And the last video film is that you, Håkon, said it's the coaches coaching the coaches. I was one day with Foppe de Haan. He's a legend in Holland. He was building Heerenveen from a small club in Division 3 to a top club in Holland, and he also winning under 21 Euro Championship with the Dutch under 21 national team. And fantastic guy, and also this energy he have to help the club, and here he is coaching the under 17 and the under 17 coach. that's for me also culture, and a very good way to create a good learning environment, to help young coaches and coaches with not so much what do you call it, experience, learning from this gentleman. And for the players also, it's fantastic to have a teacher with that background coming in maybe one day a week or so on.
Yeah, so to keep our, senators of coaching within the game.
Keep the senators in the game. That's for me. I think that's very important. And you see, in Norway now we have starting education for senators.
Okay, good.
So
that's interesting.
That's very good. We come back to that afterwards. So if you see this, this is the one pager how they work with the clubs. They are the best development club is starting with club political grounding. The club decide which club we want to be, and they also, in terms of the club identity, it's a big difference between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid if you compare. So the club identity is the most important in terms of how do you with this player logistics, which type of player do you want into the club, which type of coaches do you want into the club, in terms of the club model, the systematics plans, how we want to play, competence, coaches with big competence in all age groups. The references is international. They always compare international. They see in terms of individualization, a player, two players, 15 years need different things, maybe. They see the whole person, and then if they go through these steps, you go into the first team. And all this is also important, that you have the right resources and facilities to do the professional work every day.
But this is relevant both for professional clubs and amateur clubs, because
yes,
you're talking about strategy throughout the club.
Yeah. So Real Madrid have to find the club identity. Breiðablik have to find the club identity. Selfoss maybe another, and yeah. So you have to modeling in your own way.
Yeah. So Norway, it's quite interesting to think about Norway, because maybe 5-6 years ago when you came over, some people in Iceland were actually, we were thinking that we had some secret sauce that you didn't have, but now you have these fantastic players, young players coming up, who are not just fighters and competitors, but they're also highly technical and tactically adaptable, like Ødegaard and Holland, and on the women's side Hansen and Hegerberg. So what happened?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't think it's one answer. I think there's many answers. First of all,
you should say it was your report.
No, I don't think that. But I think it started a big discussion after this. When I was traveling, it started a big discussion in Norway, how we worked in Norway, and also the top football center, and together with the Norwegian Federation was stick their heads together, and had to cooperate with each other, and we agree of some goals how we should develop, and I think that was the main things, because we have seen good progress. You also in the women's side and in our national team we had 4 young players now coming up 20 years with very good skills, but it's a combined with they have train a lot. They have fathers who have stand behind them. They have also take the right steps in terms of clubs. I think that's very important before they go out to Europe. So if you see Martin Ødegaard, he played 2 years in Strømsgodset, and before he left, Erling Haaland, he played in Division 1, then he went to Molde, and then he went to Salzburg, and then now in Dortmund. So it's very important to taking the right steps, I think, and also a lot of training, of course. This slide in 2016, I think it was, we have a media agreement in Norway, buying the league and showing the TV games. So I think the last media agreement was 320 millions, 350 millions, and the Norwegian league and the federation was agreed that 26 million kroner was used for player development, which is distributed through the academic classification. I mean, I will come back what that is. 9 million kroner to coach mentor, also that you, Håkon, said, senators coaching the coaches. 6 million to create a national match platform that provides a national league for under 14, under 16, and under 19, the 16 best clubs. So Bodø/Glimt can go with this 14 years old, can go to Oslo and play against Vålerengen, and Start in Kristiansand can play against Tromsø. 3 million was used to classification of the clubs and processes, assistance to the clubs in terms of processing them to be better in different terms, and 7 million crowns for the operation of the Norwegian Top Football Center. This money goes to researching, documentation, competence development, and benchmarking.
So this is a cooperation between the Norwegian Football Association and the Top Football Association.
Yeah.
And how does it work politically? Do you think they are well aligned, or is it a constant, battle of resources? Or
I think it's a big difference now if you compare for about 4 or 5 years ago. I think we are a small country, and the top league, Norsk Toppfotball, and the Norwegian Federation knows that we have to cooperate with each other. We are a little country. We are 5 million. We are a little city in outside London. So we have to cooperate. So I think now it's a good climate between the federation and Norsk Toppfotball in terms of how we see things. And if you see the cooperation now, it's the Norwegian Federation have done a good job in terms of grassroots coaching. So I think I'm not 100%, but I think it's about 60% of coaches now coaching youngsters in Norway have taking the grassroots coaching, and that's a high.
What about the quality clubs that you?
Yeah, and the next is quality clubs. That's you can. That's more of to structure the clubs. So if you have silver, bronze, or gold, that says something how structured the clubs are in terms of educated coaches, pitches, it's a lot of things. How the club is with the leaderships in the clubs, economy, and so on and so on. And that's often small clubs, but also elite clubs can do this program. I think that's also have been a very progressing part of how we have developed the last couple of years.
So how are those clubs evaluated? Who is
they are
those clubs?
evaluated themselves. They have a reporting system, so they can report how the things is in the club, and then it's coming people from the federation out to the clubs and see if it's 100% right.
So there's more structure, like you were.
Yeah, more structure in also small clubs. And if you see the two other slides there, you have the national school of the Norwegian Federation. You have Norway landslagsskole, Federation School. So the best players and youth players in all over the Norway, girls and boys coming in and have good training sessions with good coaches that learn them how we want to play in the national teams. And the national teams have also the young from under 15 to under 19 play more games now internationally than before. And I think it's 20-30% more games. And that's also important to develop players internationally.
So they get the benchmark like you were talking about here.
Yeah. So then the coaches can also see when you benchmark internationally, you also see what is good and what is bad. And the last one there, you have the academy classification. Is the Norwegian toppfotball who go into every top clubs in Eliteserien and Obos-ligaen in Norway. They are 32 clubs. And they got money from this TV money in terms of how good they are on different points. And if you go to the next slide, you see those 10 things they have to report on to get money from this media agreement. And this is the same that they show you from some pages before. The clubs have to have a club political grounding to be a good developing club. The board have to be on board, if you understand. They have to commit 100% that this maybe you can tell Bodø/Glimt want to be a developing club. And if you say yes to that, the whole club have to stand behind it. That's important. So the first of all is club political grounding, and then player logistic, which type of players in terms of the political grounding. You have to have good plans and systematic, like the Spanish clubs. Competence in terms of coaches with competence. Training process, how do the training process look like in the club? Games platform. Have the club teams in the national teams and also in do the youth team of Bodø/Glimt playing games against other top clubs in Norway or just local? School football, they have to have a good plans for how you develop player on the daily basis in terms of playing football and also have taking 100% focus how you're doing in school.
Why is this important? Because we note that this is also happening in Spain and Germany more than in perhaps England back in the days. Why is it important to integrate school and football?
Because we want to see the whole player and the whole person. If you see a statistic, it's not many players going through to be a top player. And we think that we what do you call it? We have a responsibility to take the whole player as that the whole play. If the player is not succeed, he can go back and have a good life in terms of take other educational ways, or you can give him some possibilities to practice in different. If they have sponsors, if you have a player who's not want to go in school, he can work and have a model. Then, if he not succeed with football, he can work afterwards. If you understand me.
Yeah.
And the number 9, productivity, is how many of the players going through the academy and get playing time on the first team. You get points for that. And the last one is economy and facilities, that you have 100% control on the economy, and that you have good facilities for the player.
So it seems like now it's not bottom up, it's, top down investing also, that, the elite clubs are investing also in the system.
Yeah.
From this.
Yeah.
In a systematic way.
Yeah. So this, for 5-6 years, if you click one more, you see that we have 150 full-time coaches now in Norwegian top football. For 5 years ago, maybe it was 20. So we have, because of this, we have got a new profession in Norway, and that's fantastic. We have 150 full-time coaches working to develop in Norwegian football. So it's have been a fantastic progress. So for me, if you can start, it's about competence. As I starting this conversation, it's about competence, skills, capabilities, knowledge, attitudes. You have to have coaches with this inside. I think that's very important. And what is about what is really a talent, and that you tell the players that a talent is not enough. It's a signals that you have to. It's a value, but you have to combine this talent with knowledge and skills to create added value. That's for me very important to also for coaches and players to know. So if you see the football nowadays, everything goes faster and faster in today's soccer. And I was in my basement to throw out some old things, and I found a book from year 2000 when I was coaching the farmer club Byåsen. I was working in Rosenborg. They hired me out to this first division club, and I saw that in Rosenborg in 2000, the coach said that a compact team was 45 meters, 15 meters between the lines. And if you see now, it's the best teams in the world defensively is 20-25 meters, and the physicals have got up, more infights, more speed, and as coaches we have to adapt to this. I was lucky to work with Bodø/Glimt in 2 years in some processes, and Bodø/Glimt have done very well with their player development. They have no money for about 6-7 years ago. They was bankrupt, and they went down to Obos-ligaen, and they started to build the club in a new way. And if you see, Bodø/Glimt is from in 40 years they have played 4-3-3, and the Bodø/Glimt wingers if you see, you can click one more. You have one more. You have Ove Andreasen, played winger in the 70s, Mini from Bodø/Glimt to Rosenborg in the 80s, 90s, and Åsmund Bjørkan now in the sports director. He was also a winger until middle of the 2000. And those wingers was always speedy. They was very good at go behind the defense, but was not very skillful, not very good dribbling, or they were very fast and speedy. And now you see, when they're starting working with this new way of working, the new structure, they was discussed how is a Bodø/Glimt winger look like in today's football, if he should succeed, and if they have ambition to sell players to the leagues in Europe. And they starting to work a little bit in another way. So they create players with more menu. So if you see Håkon Evjen, they sold him now to Alkmaar in January. He was Player of the Year in Norway in 2019. They sold him for 30 million kroner. He has speed, technique, shot, passing, playing intelligence. So a completely different player. So it's not wrong with the other three players, but you have to create players that adapt to the new football.
So there is maybe this misconception in football that, you have players who are fighters or you have players who are skillful. And often people don't think those two seem to combine, but it's basically about having both today, isn't it?
Yeah. You have to have both. You have to have a bigger menu if you, as a Norwegian player, shall succeed in the environment in Europe. You have to have a bigger menu and just starting behind the defense. So Bodø/Glimt have 10 coaches working in this academy now, from 8-10 years and up to 19.
So it's now harder to maybe reach the top on physical attributes alone, or being a lazy creative player. You have to be working on, like you said, a bigger menu.
Yeah, you have a bigger menu. You can't have a winger stand still and wait for the next attack. No, you have to have players working offensively, defensively, and have a bigger menu than before. So that's all. I'm thinking that is important to think about as coaches. We're developing the next generation. And as you see, it's not easy to go from the academy to the first team. So if Daði, you said it not 5 minutes ago. You see Valencia and the big club is picking players and throw them out. We have to work in the long term, because you never know, and we have not so many players to work with. So we have to be more careful, and because it's so few players that going through these schools. So I think in Iceland and Norway we can work a little bit different. So it's not often you see a cherry blossom. It takes many years to develop a talent. So if you're talking about talent, it's what we are looking for. You can be seen with the eye, the tactical, technical, physical, mental, but can't be seen with the eye, this attitude, personality, and background. So when you're working with players, it's very important that you know the whole player.
And also help to develop the whole player when you're working with young players.
Yeah. Like this, who in your club has expertise in different development stage, for example?
Like we were talking with a U8 coach earlier.
Yeah.
That, you're not doing him maybe a favor by pushing him up to U14.
No. So that is very important.
Maybe clubs need to compensate those guys, a little bit better, and of their importance, because if they do a good job, then the job of the U14 coach will be, much easier.
I think this is about status, and I see in Europe, I think young coaches training under 8, 10, 12, they have bigger status than in Norway. In Norway, I have a big problem, but because you have a good coach, he will not train girls or boys under 14. He training a Division 4 club and get some money for that. Instead of, you have to pay the coaches and give them status, because they are at the same in the school. You have good teacher in teaching English for 12 years, 14 years, old kids.
As a coach, you need to know your strengths.
Yeah.
So it lies with the youth or the youngsters.
Yeah, of course, Håkon, it's right. And then you see how difficult it is, because I saw a story from Southampton. They was closing to giving up Gareth Bale because he was all this injury. They didn't think he was going to get the physics required to play in the Premier League. So you see how important it is to stay behind the player and believe in him.
Maybe to focus on what's possible instead of what is not possible.
Yeah. It's a little bit story. So in Norway, for us, it's also important that small clubs, Division 2 and 3, can create a good solution with the bigger clubs, so they can cooperate. Because if you see, many of our players now come from Division 2 clubs, and you have Erling Haaland come from Bryne, then you get to Molde and out. And you have also Martin Ødegaard, you have Ayer, you have Sander Børge starting playing in Asker in Division 1, went to Vålerengen, good step, from Vålerengen to Genk, good step, and now in Premier League. So for me, I think it's very important that this in Norway, and because we are a difficult country, we have a long country, and it's it could be long between clubs. So it's important that the top clubs and the smaller clubs could cooperate very well, so they can give knowledge to each other and over money. That's for me is very important.
So do you think it's important for young players to start to play early with the first team?
Yeah,
as they can.
Yeah, I think that's a success, because you see, if you're coming into the dressing room as 16 years, 17 years, and you're playing in the first team in second division, that team is important. You want to win, and you also meet guys that 10 years older than you with kids, and they're coming from work and everything. I think it could do something with your mindset. Are you in the academy? You are together with players in the same age group than you all the time. So references also for me that in Norway, I see some, if you see a training and you hear the coaches say, good, sorry, good try. I think that's important to say. If you have to be more focused and tell the players that if you don't do the thing right, you have to done it one more time. I think we have something to be better, improve there in Norway.
To not miss an opportunity to make them better.
No. So basically, it's not very. It's simple. I always say that this was John F. Kennedy in 1961. They want to have a man and send him to the moon and bring him back again. It's the same for a football club. If you want to be better developing players, you have to decide which club shall we be and how do we want to work.
And invest in your dream.
And invest in your dream, yes. Yeah, this is the same I showed you, and this is the same, yeah. And this is, if you go back, I think also, this is a video clip from, I was visiting Markus Henriksen and Omar El Abdullahi in Hull in 2017 in the national team. And I think also it's important that the club decide which club do we want to be, and not compare itself with other clubs. This game, Hull was relegated this game, but all the crowd was standing and applaud the guys when when the game was finished. And for me, this is a big moment.
Sorry. Yeah.
So I think that it's important that the clubs have to focus on who we are. How does we want to be perceived by our surroundings? How do we communicate this internally and externally? And how are we going to recruit even more talented people into the club? These 4 questions for me important. And if the coaches there, I read a book about culture. I find it very good. So if you have time, you can read about Bill Walsh. He said that when the environment is dedicated to learn, the result will come as a consequence of the learning environment.
This is a fantastic book. I'm teaching it. I teach it at the Reykjavik University.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. So it's a good blueprint for anybody.
Yeah.
Good book.
And back to the corporation, we have now built a culture with the Norwegian Federation and the Norwegian toppfotball. So we are meet each other, coaches from the federation, coaches from the clubs, and we had seminars. So when we have done it very well on the under 17, under 19, and now the under 20 boys team in Norway was in World Cup. Then we meet with all the coaches and have seminars and discuss football. I think that's also a building of a good culture.
And the Norwegian Association actually takes coaches to these tournaments, final tournaments, and La Manga, and
we are invited clubs, coaches from clubs to invite, and then we have seminars 2 days. Look at the game and also discuss other topics.
This way, the coaches get a reference, on what's good.
Yeah. So when the coaches is from maybe Bodø/Glimt is looking at Norway playing against Germany and under 17. They see the reference. What is a good player in international level at youth 17? So when he come back to the club, If you see this clip is from Euro 2018 in Finland for under 17, and we did discuss with the coaches this picture here.
Perfect way to pass. Brilliant control from DRB.
Okay.
Yeah, there it comes. If you see this picture, we can use a lot of time to discuss what is happening here.
Perfect way to pass. Brilliant control from DRB.
Playing with and without the ball, technique, passing, everything. So we can start discuss and then we come back to our own club. We can bring it to the club.
So that was actually a long ball, but with a high purpose.
Yes. So I think if we build good clubs, good environment, good learning environments, as Bo Schembechler, coach for Michigan, said, it's when the boys come back here, 15, 20 years, that we know which club we are, what man has he become, what father he has become, what a fellow man he has become. That's when it turns out how good we have been as club. I think that's a good quote. So this is about, for me, concept and expertise, and then go in 100% for the task. And for me, I'm not. This is my words. I'm not studying this, and I'm not making a big, what you call it. After 20 years as coach, I have think that what characterizes a very good development coach for me is he and she. is very knowledgeable about soccer. They have to do what soccer is about. They have a clear philosophy of how they develop players and team. They are good focusing on the process rather than the result. Focus on the roots instead of the fruits. They can see and recognize you, who you are, and care for you. That's very important in my opinion. They have good mood, passion, commitment. They know how you learn best from your preferences and personality. They create a safe learning environment where it's allowed to make mistakes but not allowed to do your best. They can distinguish between performance and potential, and at the same time know when the various learning windows are available for each player. Because of that could be the big difference between two 15 years players that we saw earlier. They know physiologically and loud in the training process, so they can individualize the correct total load for each player. They can see what you have to work on and what is good quality off and off the pitch. Then you have to have the references. They are able to put the player on the move out of the flow zone in a positive way. They are able to teach you self-regulation and put you in the driving seat in your own development. Constantly focus, getting better by seeking new knowledge. Knows what a good and very good 16-year-old player look like, locally, regionally, nationally, and as we saw just now, internationally. And always watch video from games, training together with the players, and ask many open, good questions for reflection.
And this obviously comes with experience and application.
Yes.
It's quite a good list.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm right, but it's just my opinion. So the best never rests, in my opinion.
Of course it is.
Okay. That was very good, Perry. Thank you. So obviously the Norwegian football is now, advancing better than 5-6 years ago, and it seems like you have a good cooperation in key partners.
Yeah, I think we have made progress the last 5 years. I think we have made big progress.
Were you able to make progress and come together because results were not good, or was it something else?
That's a good question. It's not easy. It's not easy to have one answer on that, but we have not very good results. We have goals to reach Euro with the national team, but and we have not been in the Euros for 20 years. So we are working many years now to see how we could be better. And I think this process with this academy classification and demand the top clubs to work better with structure, and because before you have a coach, maybe you go in and coach for 3 years and he have all the game models in his head, and when he left the club he took the game model with him. So now we are more structured, so when the coaches left, you have something staying there from the coach. That's also important.
That's quite nice, but you are now playing against Serbia in the qualification for Euro. How do you see your possibilities for that game?
It's a difficult...
When it will be played, you never know.
Yeah, it was quite special because we made me and Lars made a video to the players. What the best Serbia video, and we bring it out to the 25 players in Europe. And I was traveling around meeting 20 players all over Europe. I was in 11 countries. I left 25th of January and come back 9th of March. And the day after, was the lockdown. So we have to start a little bit from the beginning again. Now we think maybe it will be a game in October, November, but you never know. But Serbia is a good team. They was in Russia 2018. They have a good side, so it will be difficult, but a little bit advanced. We have them at home, so hopefully we beat them. But you also have to win. If you beat Serbia, you also have to beat the winner of Scotland and Israel.
But you have a fantastic group of players coming up, so hopefully the future is as bright as it looks.
Yeah, they have. We have 4 players now with about 20 years playing in the national team. It's not many teams in Europe that have 4 so young players playing together. So, but.
Yeah, it's interesting with these guys' development, because like we were talking about earlier, it seemed like, and you hear this certainly from the Southern Europe, that players from the Nordics aren't highly technical or that. So it's an interesting thing to see players who are able to play at the highest level coming again from a Nordic country.
Yeah. We could have had a new seminar talking about a player like Martin Ødegaard. Why have his skills so? Why have he got these skills? And you see here working very, very hard from the age of 8. His father and he have worked maybe 15 hours a week with technical skills. And they have played a lot of football, 5 against 3 against 3, 2 against 2 on a small pitch, and also played with good clubs. So it's the same that they do in Europe.
One thing you note with the Norwegian players, that they all have parents who have been really, really supportive.
Yeah, many, and you also see that in Daða Hegerberg, you also have a father very supporting, and so it's differing is many ways to Rome. So you can't pick one way, and you see also Martin have done his way, Erling another way, and Kristoffer Ayer also in Celtic 20 years another way, Sander Berge. But for me, I think it's the most important that they have choose the right clubs, they have take the right steps. And you see how important it is to take the right step. If you see, example, Martin Ødegaard, he was on loan to Heerenveen, and he had so many games, and he had many assists who should be goals, but the players, the teammates was not good enough to execute his passes. And then he left from Heerenveen to Vitesse with a coach who using in a better way, and also better teammates. And then suddenly he have got 10 assists and 8 goals for one season. So it's very important to choose the right clubs.
Yeah.
That's quite good.
Well, thank you. It's been, we almost have a football game of 90 minutes here to, of interview with you. And thank you for sharing about your trip and your findings. I think it's going to be useful not just for the Norwegian coaches, but also for our coaches.
Yeah, I'm very impressed about Icelandic football, and it's fantastic how you manage to do what you do in Iceland. I'm always been impressed. 300,000 people, and climate as it is, and develop so many good players. It's fantastic. So
we can be sure to see you again in Iceland.
Hopefully, I'm going back to Iceland. I love Iceland. I've been there twice, 3, 4, 5 times. 5 times I think I've been in Iceland, and fantastic island and the fantastic people, and so and I hope also Iceland can qualify to in your playoff. It's been fantastic if you have made it again.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Thank you, and yeah, enjoy the quarantine, and Hopefully,
Same.
coach a football game soon again.
Thank you and
Thanks,
good
Perry.
luck. Thank
Thanks
you.
for the conversation.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.